in wet conditions, hasn't he? He lines up 16th ahead of Joan Mir and Alex Marquez. Maverick Vinales would be 19th on the grid ahead of the two Tech 3 rookies of Raul Fernandez and Remy Gardner. Darren Binder is set to start 22nd, with Takaki Nakagami in 23rd. They're all, of course, chasing Fabio Quartararo, who starts from pole position.
Yeah, just actually quickly popped out of our commentary box and saw on the back of a scooter going to the Repsol Honda office was Marc Marquez. Quite a big plaster, looks like he got on the right elbow. If that's all he got away with after that monster high side at turn 7 in this morning's warm-up, he's a very, very lucky boy. Of course, the 8-times world champion, sadly not a participant in this shortened 20-lap Indonesian Grand Prix. After that big spill this morning in the warm-up session, we wish Mark well and hope he's back in action, fighting fit and ready to go when we make our first trip to South America since 2019. The Termas de Rio Hondo circuit primed and ready for action there in 2 weeks' time.
So 90 seconds then until the bikes will head out onto the racetrack, and of course the riders wouldn't ordinarily push too hard on a sighting lap, but you can imagine the riders will be very, very keen when they head out there to get a real idea of what the grip levels are like. Of course, they'll do one lap to the grid, and then within 15 minutes of the pit lane opening, we will be off and running with the warm-up lap in this 20-lap Indonesian Grand Prix. Joan Mir, boy, has he got some work to do, starting 17th on the grid, although he hasn't felt happy or comfortable at any stage really in the dry conditions this weekend. So perhaps a wet Grand Prix might present him with an opportunity to paper over some of the cracks of what has been a really desperate weekend for the 2020 world champion.
You know, although he's been in MotoGP a couple of years, hasn't he, Joan Mir? Likewise, Fabio Quartararo, they don't have an awful lot of wet weather experience. This is a journey into the unknown as well for the rookies, the likes of Marco Bezzecchi, Fabio Di Giannantonio, Remy Gardner, Darren Binder as well. They'd have never raced a MotoGP bike in rain conditions. So Fabio Quartararo, for the first time in 9 long months, can't believe we're saying that. He was always the qualifying king of MotoGP, wasn't he, the Frenchman? But he is going to start from pole position in this 20-lap Grand Prix. The number 20 flags waving proud in the Mandalika grandstands.
Just listen to the roar. This is what the crowd have been waiting for a good couple of hours now, since the Moto2 race came to a conclusion with spots of rain in the air. They've seen plenty of rainfall since then. The green flag waves, and João Zarco leads the field out for this sighting lap. They'll do one lap to the grid, and then at 15 minutes past the hour, the Indonesian Grand Prix will be underway. World champion Fabio Quartararo starts from pole position. Just how much has his wet weather riding come on since last season? Of course, it was his difficulties in the wet conditions and mixed conditions that saw him start the Grand Prix that eventually concluded with him as world champion back at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix last year from 15th on the grid. Can he put those problems behind him and give his world championship defence the kickstart that it needs?
This is a massive step into the unknown for these MotoGP riders. They've done barely a handful of wet weather laps. Certainly the track wasn't as wet as this on Saturday morning. So this really is stepping into the unknown territory. Who's going to quickly master the conditions? Who's going to take the big risks? Jack Miller, well, you know that he's so good in the wet conditions. He's proven to be strong on the Ducati and the Honda in the past. Of course, it was mixed conditions, and he took that famous win at the Dutch TT in Assen back in 2016. Who else has got really strong wet weather prowess in this field? Frankie Morbidelli's actually not a bad wet weather rider. Other guys with nothing to lose really, Andrea Dovizioso in particular on a factory Ducati, where you could always put your money on him to be a big threat in these rain conditions. You've got to say, the way that Fabio Quartararo is throwing that Yamaha around that second sector, there's been a lot of feedback from the World Superbike riders here and the Moto3 riders who had a couple of wet sessions that the grip levels here in the rain at this Mandalika circuit are very good. Very good indeed. So you can see the guys are just out there now trying to understand where the patches of water are, where the water's perhaps at its worst, and then also just work out the grip levels. Pecco Bagnaia also relatively inexperienced in terms of wet weather riding in MotoGP as well.
Alex Rins is a rider I'd perhaps point to as well, who might have half a chance in these conditions. He starts in the middle of the third row in 8th place. Pit lane closes in 4 minutes time, which is why you're seeing riders come back down pit lane. They do have time to do this. This isn't like the quick restart procedure where you have 60 seconds to get out there before the pit lane closes again. So understandably, some of the smart cookies on this grid, the 2 Pramac riders, the 2 Suzuka riders, taking the opportunity to do an extra lap of the track before they pull up on the grid, just to get a little bit more information, just to see where some of the damper patches are, where some of the grip levels are. KTM, of course, they'll fancy their chances this afternoon. Brad Binder, last time we saw conditions like this, was winning a race on slicks. Of course, he won't be running them today. Miguel Oliveira also looking good. He starts 7th on the grid. Their team boss Francesco Guidotti is speaking now with Simon.
Francesco, we now step into the unknown. I'd love to know how you're